Joining us now is Okpe with stories trending around the world. Ojineka.
Good morning, Dr. Abati.
Okay, over to you.
Looking dapper.
Yes, thank you.
It's almost Friday, guys. You look lovely in your pearls.
You look absolutely beautiful. Look at this radiant.
Thank you.
Ojineka. We are take charge. Let's go.
Okay, Rufai, good morning. I'm about to take charge.
Look at you. I am just amazed at the work of God.
Oh, goodness. Thank you.
Rufai. Okay, some people will come after you.
No one's coming after you. You're good. All right. Well, good morning to you, viewers. Here are some of the stories that are trending across the globe.
In the United Kingdom, TV host Piers Morgan tops the trend again as he urges Britons to stand up for the Queen. On his Instagram, he wrote that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are on a deliberate and malicious campaign to smear, defame, and trash the monarchy. In the United States, President Joe Biden has labeled Russian President Vladimir Putin a killer and promised that Kremlin will pay a price for interfering in the 2020 U.S. election.
You know Vladimir Putin, you think he's a killer?
I do.
So what price must he pay?
The price he's going to pay, well, you'll see shortly.
And the new hashtag, Stop Asian Hate, circulates in the wake of the Atlanta shootings that left 8 people dead, 6 of them Asian women. Former U.S. President Barack Obama, in a tweet, called for common sense gun safety laws and the need to end hatred and violence in the country. In Nigeria, reactions have trailed the decision of President Muhammadu Buhari to name the Abuja Expressway after the president of Niger Republic. Under sports, former boxing world champion Floyd Mayweather plans to team up with British-Nigerian heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua ahead of his mammoth world title fight with Tyson Fury. Finally, in Dublin, in celebration of St. Patrick's Day on March 17th, 500 drones weaved into different shapes and alternated colors took to the skies.
Do you know how excited I got when I saw this? I'm Catholic, you know.
But did you indulge on St. Patrick's Day?
That's inside baseball.
Right.
All right. Let's begin what's trending today in Kwara State, Nigeria, where violence broke out between Muslims and Christians in Ilorin, the state's capital, on Wednesday. After the state government reopened some schools it had shut down over controversy on the hijab. Well, let's take a quick look at this video before we come back for a discussion.
We voted for just event laws. The Christian and Muslim are now throwing stone. The police are now shooting. They are throwing stone. They are throwing stone now. But the police are shooting. Can you hear that? The police are now shooting. Can you hear that? The Muslim and the Christian. The Christian are throwing stone from the church, while the Muslim are throwing from the outside.
So this all happened yesterday. So far, about 5 people have been, said to be injured from this whole clash yesterday. But, I think that it all boils down to the government because, they had set up a committee to say that there are no public schools that are owned by either Christians or Muslims. And that's why they found it necessary to reopen the schools, thinking that they have made that clear to the public. So apparently what happened yesterday was that students were not allowed to go to a Christian schools and the parents got upset and they started fighting, and that's how this whole clash happened. It's really appalling. And I also blame it on the tension that is happening in the country at this point. That's what I think is really going on.
Yeah, I was making this point earlier in the news headlines. In all my life, I have never known Nigeria to be this divided. There's something fundamentally flawed with the way we see each other at this point. Such mutual suspicion, ill will, it's awful. One of our strengths is our diversity, so this is unfortunate. And also unfortunate is the irony of Christians throwing stones. In the Christian holy book, let's see who is without sin. Cast the first stone. It's literal. You're not supposed to chuck stones at people, And Muslims as well. The Muslim faith is one of peace. So this is really disgraceful. And it should just never come to this in a country like Nigeria that does not have a state religion. We have to learn to peacefully coexist and respect the rights and sensibilities of other people. This is really it's disgraceful. And especially because it's such ungodly, unholy behavior being conducted in the name of defending their religion. Is the irony not lost on these people?
Yeah, I think that the people of Kwara have to really calm down.
Yes.
It's really unnecessary. Dr. Abati.
Yes, when this crisis began, the Kwara Hijab crisis, if we can call it that, the state government decided to close down 10 schools and then set up the committee that you referred to. These are schools across Christian denominations. Bishop Smith School, CAC School, St. John's, Surulere Baptist Secondary School, which was where the trigger for this particular incident yesterday occurred. And that committee, after sitting, made a number of recommendations which have been upheld by the state government, because you refer to the role of the state government. Mm-hmm. The state government is saying that in line with the Kwara State Education Law of 1996 and decisions that have been taken by high courts and courts of appeal with regard to religious freedom, the state is saying no. No Christian school can say nobody can wear hijab. Now, they also said that the Christians and the Muslims have no right to say that this school belongs to us.
Right.
Because since 1974, when there was a general takeover of missionary schools by state governments have been in charge of even missionary schools. And they are saying that the names have been retained. Bishop Smith, Bishop Williams, CAC School, Apostolic School, St. John's, Baptist Secondary School, only for just honorific
just
purposes.
To pay respect, yes.
Because those schools were originally owned by those missions, right? Now, is that the right? And the state government has further insisted that nobody should insist that nobody can wear hijab to a school. And they also refer to precedents in other states, in Lagos, in Osun State. You'll recall that at a time in Osun State when there was a similar situation, there were memes on social media showing some people dressing as masquerades to school. And the whole issue here is in the province of law. The state government can code the law, but what balancing mechanism are they applying? Under Section 38 of the Nigerian Constitution, everybody is entitled to the freedom of religion. And you are free also to teach and propagate your religion and to display your religion the way you deem fit. Section 39 opposes that when it deals with the freedom of expression. But people who talk about preferred limitations to religious freedom, they quote Section 45, that the state can take a decision in the interest of public morality or anything that is reasonably justifiable in a democratic society. But there is a lot of controversy in that regard. But what we know is that the Kwara State government is standing on very strong ground when it says it's relying on precedents and history. Because in Lagos State, in one classical case of Asirmiyat, Abdul Karim and others versus Lagos State government and others, the Supreme Court ruled that the religious freedom as prescribed in Section 38 is not something you can derogate from. And there are other cases like that involving Jehovah's Witnesses. In fact, Supreme Court even held that even at the point of death, you can insist on your faith, on your belief. Now, but how do you balance this in society? There's also the popular case of one lady, that lady in 2017, who wore hijab.
Amasa
Firdaus, who wore the hijab to go and do call to bar ceremony. She was not allowed to get into the ceremony. But 7 months later, the body of benchers said, look, you can wear hijab if you want and put the wig on top of it. What they were upholding and what that lady, Miss Firdaus, was doing at that time, she said she was challenging the status quo. And she succeeded with it, although 7 months later. But at the bottom of all of this is tolerance. We hope and we expect that the Kwara State government will not take this position that, oh, this is what the law says, and we are standing by it. And we'll get to engage the religious leadership in that state.
Yeah.
Considering the fact that Kwara is an extremely religious environment. In fact, it's predominantly Muslim. Yes. So it's a bit curious that the people who are resisting this are the Christians who are in the minority. And we also hope that at the higher level, NIREC, which is the Inter-Religious Council of Nigeria, even up to the level of persons like the heads of the various groups, including His Eminence, the Sultan of Sokoto, will move in and try to see how we do not have that kind of problem, even at primary school, secondary school level. Right. But it is a reflection of the crisis that we face in Nigeria, the tension that has overtaken our country, to see that parents and students are now fighting over uniform. The uniform should not be what is important. I don't care. If you like, you can go naked to class. The education that you are going to get is more important. The emphasis in Kwara State should not be on uniform or appearance. It should be on quality and substance of education that those young persons are given access to.
Well said. Rufai, your take on the story.
Wow. Here we go again in Nigeria. Now it's religion. We have no business fighting ourselves, no matter the religion. And the religious stakeholders have started making peace in Kwara, which I'm very proud of, but they should do more. We should all calm this rhetoric down, because we have no business fighting ourselves. What is happening in Kwara is an indication of the fault lines. Religion, the diversity that used to bring us together, but because there are fault lines now, it's dividing us. I make bold to say, Christians and Muslims, we are not divided. If you think we are, I'm sure you saw during the last protest in Lagos, how Christians were praying and Muslims were praying. That was the site of religious harmony. Nobody threw stones at each other. Please, let's keep the peace. I know tempers are rearing in Kwara, just like tempers reared in Oshun when this happened.
Right.
But please, let's keep the peace. You know why? This can escalate. Central African Republic is happening in our eyes. It's a religious crisis since 2013 between the Selekas and Anti-Balaka. Till date, that country has not been returned to the path of peace. They have elections. They can't even have elections. Peacekeepers are there trying to keep the peace because two religious groups are fighting. Let us calm things down in Nigeria. Let us listen to one another. It is one God we serve. I know some people would want to go up in arms, but it is one God we have. And if we call in the name of God, we should be able to love one another, because the reflection of God is not violence, but God is love.
Thank you, Rufai. We're going to go on a short break, and when we come back, what's trending on the morning show will continue. Welcome back to the morning show. We're still on What's Trending. We'll take another story. The Commandant General of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, Ahmed Audi, has come under fire on social media for saying persons involved in banditry and similar criminal activities receive sponsorship from the international circles. The commander, while speaking during a training for state commandants of the agency in Abuja on Wednesday, added that the country is experiencing asymmetric war, which requires interagency collaboration among security outfits. Let's take a Twitter reaction from a Walter who wrote, "Which other sponsor can be more than those that pay ransom to bandits and terrorists for kidnapping? Even when they are caught, their sponsors go to the extent of sewing clothes for them, celebrating them, and even integrating them into the army to continue from where they stopped." I mean, I think everyone is just really sensitive at this point in Nigeria. I mean, because the commandant said made a lot of valid points at that meeting. But the point still remains. Only last week, I believe it was last month, the Senate President said that it was drug barons that were sponsoring bandits. People just want solutions. They want solutions. They don't want to hear where this whole issue is coming from.
Yes, and you'll recall that two governors, the governors of Katsina and Zamfara, have alluded to it being political players and people who will just amaze Nigerians, will be shocked if we knew. So there are all kinds of different, hypotheses about who are the sponsors.
Right.
But I will not dismiss the sponsors of the banditry coming from elsewhere, because we do know we have a problem with the porosity of our borders. That might be a factor, but that doesn't have anything to do with getting results. Now, Walter's point, I do take Walter's point, but being complicit in banditry by pandering to the bandits and sewing clothes, as he said. And then that awful, I can't ever forgive that awful photograph of the governor of Katsina State, Bello Masari, with the bandits with their AK-47. That kind of complicity, that's one thing. But that's different from sponsorship.
Right.
It's completely different from sponsorship.
Well, in my view, Ahmed Audi, the new boss of the civil defense, I don't think he has said anything that is extraordinary or out of place. The gentleman whose tweet you quoted is merely reacting to how the Nigerian government has been handling the situation.
Right.
When you pay ransom, or you negotiate with bandits, or you say you are rehabilitating them, and you give them ashwebi, and you treat them nicely, then of course, there may be, in the eyes of some people, some hypocrisy involved in that approach. But of late, we've seen the government also stepping back, saying that government will not negotiate or pay ransom. We hope that that is a fact, and not that they're just saying that for our consumption. What did this fellow, Ahmed Audi, what did he say? He says there are international sponsors for terrorism in Nigeria. That's a no-brainer. We know that there's an international network, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, factions even within Al-Qaeda, ISL, ISIL, and also ISWAP, the Islamic State in the West African province. And then, of course, that's why there is great concern at the international level that what you are dealing with is not local, it's international. So in that regard, he's not saying anything that is new. It's a no-brainer. But he made two other points. He said that, one, this is an asymmetrical war.
Yes.
Again, that's not original. We know, because bandits, terrorists, they don't wear uniform. They don't follow Geneva Convention. They operate at will and they inflict a lot of damage. And his point is that because the war is asymmetrical, then there is need for great concentration and greater effort. And then he also made a point at that inaugural meeting with state commandants about a multi-sectoral collaboration. Again, there is nothing offensive in that. He's just saying that, look, every group must come together within the security units, and that his men must be alert that they are part of the solution to banditry and terrorism. And if you look at the Enabling Act for the civil defense, part of the responsibility of the civil defense is to protect government property, and to make sure that government infrastructure, do not get destroyed by persons who want to sabotage the state. So to that extent, I think that Ahmed Audi has not done anything out of place. But of course, this is a very difficult moment in Nigeria.
Yes.
And people are emotional about the situation in the country. And so
rhetoric
Walter
has to be.
and also come up and say, well, if you are paying ransom and you are negotiating and you are giving them jollof rice to eat, then you don't have the right to talk about international sponsors. That the sponsors
That's the issue.
are in-house, local.
Correct. Rufai, I'd love your take on this so that we could take our final story real quick, if you can.
We need to end this banditry one way or the other. We need to end whatever it is. Even if they have international sponsors, that's not the issue. How can we end it? And people's life move back to normal. And it goes back to the conversation about empowering the population, improving the state of welfare and the economy of people. It goes back to the conversation about government doing what is right for its people and improving the financial livelihood of its people.
All right.
Something happened many years back in Peru. There used to be a rebel group, like bandits too, like this, called the Shining Path. And they were terrorizing villages, and the villagers were supporting them. And an economist called Hernando de Soto brought about property rights, gave the people property rights, make them economically viable, and they stopped following Shining Path. And Shining Path died. I'm not saying that solution would be the case, but government should look into the welfare of its people, and we should flush out banditry and criminality once and for all.
Well said. We'll take our final story in Tanzania on the death of the country's president, John Magufuli, who passed on yesterday as a result of a heart failure at a hospital in Dar es Salaam. He was 61 years old. Magufuli, a son of a peasant farmer, was declared president on his 56th birthday in October 2015 and got re-elected for a second term following a disputed poll last year. He was hailed for his anti-corruption stance during his time in office, but was also accused of cracking down on dissent and curtailing certain freedom. Magufuli, who was last seen in public on February 27th, was one of Africa's most prominent coronavirus skeptics. He had called for prayers and herbal-infused steam therapy to counter the virus and declared Tanzania coronavirus-free June of last year. Amid calls for the government to disclose his health status, rumors began circulating that he had succumbed to the deadly disease. His death was announced by the country's vice president, Samia Suluhu Hassan, who will be sworn in as the new president to serve the remainder of Magufuli's 5-year term. Well, our hearts are with the Tanzanians. Well, may his soul rest in peace.
Amen. I think this is desperately sad. He was a super skeptic, yes, but I had hoped that he would recover from the COVID-19 he's rumored to have had, but it hasn't been confirmed, and publicly repent and stop misleading people. But alas, he's passed on, and Tanzania now has their first female president in a former women's activist turned politician.
Well, earlier on I had said that the legacy of John Magufuli, the man called the bulldozer, as it is, you know, he could not bulldoze death. Suluhu Hassan, the vice president, told us that he's been suffering from a heart condition for decades. Right. And someone said, well, if you have comorbidities, then of course you could be a victim of COVID-19. But beyond COVID-19 and the politics and his own skepticism, I think his legacy is more important. As I said earlier on, it's a very contradictory legacy. A man who came to power with a lot of hope, fighting corruption. He had been Minister of Works and Transportation, and he was known as a very productive man. But he then got to power, and under his watch, we saw a lot of repression. We saw a lot of contradiction.
Yes, a lot.
And I think that the contradictory nature of his legacy is what I would like to emphasize. But we commiserate with the people of Tanzania, and we hope that Suluhu Hassan, who will now become president, would be able to deliver.
Well, thank you,
guys. Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Thank you very much. I will see you again tomorrow.